every aspect, determined to get done what she needs to get done. She don't take no for an answer. She is just determined to make it happen.
I think people don't realize she's not one that's gonna step into the spotlight as soon as you call her. The lights, camera, action isn't really all her, she's just really action. I think people fail to realize that because she is in the spotlight.
Senator Seay is our longest serving elected official in Clayton County. And when she first ran for school board, the county was mostly white.
I wouldn't be in this spot if it wasn't for Senator Seay. She was the first African-American woman to actually hold the seat that I'm sitting in now.
She's always been driven. Anything that she's set her mind to, she's going to do it, and she's going to do it to the best of her ability.
Everything that she does, she is just passionate about it, whether it's family, friends, work, community, church. She is all the way in.
I am Valencia Martin Seay. Look at me, still kicking, just not as high. My first address was on John Street in Herndon Homes Housing Projects. Everybody's child was the community's child. You go through there, if somebody was in their window and see a child doing something they weren't supposed to, they would yell out the window, "Boy, you better stop that. Don't let me tell your mama," or "Don't let me come out there." You couldn't get away with it in Herndon Homes because everybody knew everybody and everybody knew whose child you belonged to. So they would tell on you or spank you themselves. As a kid, I wanted to join Antioch Baptist Church North. And today I sit before you as a pioneer with that recognition and distinction. I am so proud to have generations at that same church where they were first called Christians, and I first learned of who my God is.
I mean, you can't know Valencia and not appreciate her faith.
Everybody can tell you she comes from Antioch, and just seeing the way that she lives and she carries her spirit throughout life every day.
We grew up in the church, so Sunday mornings, we getting up and we going to Antioch. That was what it was.
The church has definitely been our foundation. She always spoke on how Antioch was right across the street from her housing projects. She could just walk across the street and go to church.
She's first and foremost is going to start with her faith in God. Then she's going to tell you that her family comes before anything.
I hold a number of titles, but the most dear and near to my heart is mother and grand.
People love to say, like, you act like you the only person in the world that got grandkids. And she'll be like, but I'm the only one with these 4. And she'll just like go on and on about stories about us. She loves to brag about us. And I think that's a great thing.
She was Mama C. I've always been proud of that. I've always been proud of the fact that my friends in the community look to her as Mama C.
All through my childhood, I was a competitive twirler. So I really had the teen mom that was very energetic. She was the loudest voice in the audience.
I was a band student. She kind of just followed along with just going to practices, going to performances, making sure I got where I needed to get. She's right there in the middle of it.
Senator Seay has a bigger-than-life personality. She's always willing to help others.
She's like my best friend. That's how I would describe growing up with her. She would tell us, oh, this weekend you're gonna meet Bill Clinton, you're gonna meet John Lewis, like it was normal, you're gonna meet Jimmy Carter, it was normal. And then just beyond that, there would be just the Tuesdays and Thursdays at home where she would get up and dance with us. We loved the Michael Jackson Experience, Just Dance game. She would play that, she would jump on the trampoline with us. We lived with her, like it was fun.
She's just always there. Like you could call her at 11 o'clock at night. You know, she's probably sound asleep. You call her, she'd be there, and she'd be there to listen. I think it's the natural maternal instinct. She's very caring. She's very attentive to what you need, to what is going on around you. Like, okay, what do you need? What can I do to help you?
Clayton County was 10 to 15% Black. I mean, it was not nearly like it is today. And there were pockets of Black people in different areas of the county. We just started talking about how to start making some changes. And so out of that grew an effort to begin to organize the community.
Her son and daughter attended the same schools as my daughters. I had 2 daughters and all. And that's how we met. Wade Starr came up to the North Clayton area and said, hey, I want to get you all organized. We need to start getting politically involved. Since we were very heavy in PTA, more so than any other part of the county as far as blacks were concerned, because the percentage of black and white with blacks was very low at the time. And it was hard for us to really get into the PTAs, basically about 90-something% white. And the few blacks, we were trying to figure out, now how do we get to be officers? How do we get involved?
We were doing some voter registration, had a little table set up, and Valencia came by. That's just my first, we didn't really engage, but that's the first time I saw her. But I appreciated her energy. Subsequently, we met several more times and have known each other now for probably 40 years.
Wade would come and, telling us what we should do or needed to do or what we wanted to do kind of thing. We just wanted to get involved, wanted to be a part. Since we were paying taxes, we wanted to be heard. We didn't want that taxation without representation kind of thing. That's how the 2 of us got involved, and I invited her to one of our meetings.
There were a few of us, blacks, in the community who had decided that at that time there were no people of color on the school board. And when we were getting together, we just said that we need somebody to run for every area. From where I was, when they were saying, you run, I said, I can't run. And they said, we need somebody from your area. Why you can't run? And I said, well, I didn't go to college. And they said, so? Some of those on the board, dummies. That was a response. And I'm going, I'll put my name down, but I'm letting y'all know I didn't go to college. As God would see it, I did end up being elected to the Clayton County Board of Education. And unbeknownst to me at that time, I was the lone minority. It was a challenge.
That had to take a lot of courage for her to run at that time, and then to continue to run for state representative and then to retire as state senator. Each one of those times, she was the first in those positions to represent us in Clayton County.
During that time, when we started organizing in the 80s, the only black people that worked at central office cleaned it up. And they swept it, or they mopped it, or they dusted it.
When I look at that, it shows me how somebody that comes from where I come from has opened the doors for people like me to now sit up here and represent her.
She advocated for not only the students in our community, but the teachers and the administrators, all of those people, she advocated for them. We saw that we had somebody of color on the school board that was advocating for us. And that's what a lot of folk fought for in Clayton County a long time ago.
But then in '92, when they changed the Constitution to appoint superintendents, Bob couldn't run again. And they wanted, the powers that be wanted Bob to be superintendent. There were, during the 80s also, there was a little rise in the Republican Party here. So that was some split on the board. So who was the swing vote to decide who was going to be the next superintendent? Valencia Seay. They came after Valencia with a vengeance. Every black person that owed a white man a favor called her. But Valencia stood in there. The result was hiring Joe Hairston, who was the first black superintendent here.
Black students can see someone on the school board, can see a black superintendent or a black elected official, then they know they can do that. When students saw President Barack Obama as the President of the United States of America, they can see themselves that way. I was just proud of her being that. I grew up in Clayton County, attended the Clayton County Public Schools, so I was overjoyed to have someone on the school board. So we thank her for her many years of service.
You know, it's important to have role models. And so we needed to have people who were willing to step out and challenge the system.
Back when she was a school board member, the enrollment had declined a little bit in Clayton County Public Schools. And in order for Clayton County Public Schools to keep the money that was coming to them from the state, they had to make sure that their enrollment stayed steady. And what they did at that time, I don't know if it was intentionally or unintentionally, is they held back a lot of students in order to stabilize that number. Senator Seay did not agree with that. And she went on to create policy that prevented the schools from holding kids back just to keep that steady number. The demographic of Clayton County's public schools had changed to a more predominantly African-American population. Think about how that was impacting our community at that time and what she did to prevent that. Senator Seay made sure that things stayed balanced when she sat on that school board.
I never could have imagined this little girl coming out of Herndon Homes would be running for and then winning the State House. My colleagues were encouraging because they said, you've already got the name recognition, you just need to keep it moving. And Gail Hambrick, who is still down here in Clayton County, she was among those.
We were just working, trying to make better things happen for our kids, for the school system, because we were about making changes that would be helpful or benefit our kids.
We actually have a school board member by the name of Jasmine Bowles that graduated from the Clayton County Public School Systems. Jasmine represents what can happen for our Clayton County Public School students. You can go to school, graduate from school, go to college, then you can come back home and you can serve our community. I think Senator Seay shows us that.
The bill that I was most proud of is being able to allow voting age students to get registered to vote at their schools. To me, that was important because so many people don't have the privilege of transportation to go where you need to go to get registered.
Individuals came and registered them to vote in their cafeteria. So she is responsible for the legislation allowing all the high schools in Georgia to let individuals come in and register high school students to vote.
And I thought that was really important because now you have all these students who say, I want to register to vote. They believe in civic involvement and civic participation.
So also within the schools, I know the one you always talk to us about, the cell phone policy. Can you talk about what led you to creating the cell phone policy?
Telephones used to have the cords in the homes and you could only get calls at home. But when we started getting cell phones with our kids, if you got a cell phone and I'm supposed to pick you up and I'm stuck at a meeting and I'm gonna be running late, how do you know that? Now I can call you and let you know that. Mm-hmm. That is moving forward with technology. And if we're not making it happen, then we're not keeping up with where we are moving. And I just thought that was strong enough legislation to get it passed to make it happen.
She went on to the House of Representatives, and to become a senator, she constantly advocated for enhanced education for people in her community and Georgia as a whole.
Inner city, you didn't really have a farm, so to have a display where one of my colleagues were joking about when you ask a Black child, where does milk come from? They say quota. It's supposed to be a joint. I took it personal. Being of the generations of sharecroppers, we need to know that good, healthy food is great for our children, not just the fast stuff that we can get them, because it's quick. So I would always ask for money for my district until I grew it enough to where I could go and talk to the people at the Capitol who would put the displays in. They actually sent people to my office to tell me my vision and what I wanted to have happen. And I am so proud. And by the way, for those who have never been to the Capitol to see that display on the 4th floor, it's worth a trip.
What does the word legacy mean to you, and how do you hope future generations will remember your legacy?
Good question. Legacy is everything to me. The next generation need to know about what it took to get me where I am.
She set that ball in motion, and that her legacy is available for everyone to see all the different barriers that she broke.
You have this Black woman who made it out of these Atlanta housing projects right there off Northside Drive, who then worked her way to being the first Black person to ever serve on the Clayton County Board of Education, then being one of the first Black representatives and one of the first Black senators just in the state of Georgia. And I think that's like very inspirational to see.
Everybody having that opportunity to hear a story and the detail of it, not just that she was born in the projects, yes, and then now she's a state senator, yes, that's what often people hear, but it's much more than that. I think to me, especially being the legacy of it, I think that it would give more people hope and direct more people to having faith for things.
I think her contribution is to a lot of the young ladies and young men and, people of all color, is that the possibility is wide open for you to do whatever you want to do. And I think she represents that.
I didn't really realize the magnitude of her being the first African American on the school board. It wasn't until I think my sophomore year in high school, we had a Black History Assembly or something. And then she walked in with Reverend Jesse Jackson. At that time in the 90s, he had been the only African American to truly be a viable candidate for the presidency. She was always active in the school, but when she walked in with him and all this security surrounding her, everybody's like, wow, your mom's really, big time.
I've always known some of the stuff she's done, but you don't truly know the day-to-day work and the day-to-day accomplishments that people recognize her for until you actually sit down and look at them like, oh, my mother did some stuff, right? Like, she really did some things. And it makes me proud as a son to go, am I surprised that she was able to accomplish so much? Not really.
You don't really realize the impact that you've had on so many people until you actually have a chance to just sit back and just hear from others.
You hear the term Black history, and usually you're hearing like, oh, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Ruby Bridges. But what if that example is right in front of you? Seeing it every day in your community, and she's just actual living Black history. She's made life better for herself, and she's made life better for her children and her grandchildren.
One thing I enjoy is being able to reach out to this next generation, because it's a wealth of knowledge growing up in you all. It's a joy to see the next generation, my beautiful granddaughter, my kids who gave them to me, just to be able to share with you all is my true legacy.
Her whole thing was always education is the foundation. And so you go to school, we don't know what you're gonna be, but you're gonna try hard and you're gonna do what you gotta do in school. My mother only accepted your best. Now, if your best was a B, then you got the B. But if you knew you could get A, she would, hey, I need you to push harder. You know you can do better.
I heard the first time, and it was made as a joke. If you wanna hide something, put it in a book, because Black people don't read. That will never, ever fade from my memory, because that's an insult to me. Because look at us today, how many educators we have, how many young kids that are matriculating to college, the higher level.
And we know that reading is the gateway, and education is the gateway to our success. And I understand that there are a lot of things going on right now, and they may be very confusing, but one thing is not confusing is that you must get your education in order to be successful.
It's not where you come from, it's where you're going. And if you stay focused, education is the key to freedom.